and welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S. This is episode 41. Really? I think so. Maybe 42. You already know because I figured it out and put it on. My note says 41, but I have some idea that could be wrong. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for watching the podcast. If you're new, very glad to have you, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I am late podcasting. Life has been crazy. Life is going to get crazier. We leave for our trip tomorrow. I'm so excited. I can barely stand it. I'll talk about the trip a little bit later. I have so many things to talk about. It's crazy. So I'm going to pretend like this is really a knitting podcast. And I'll start with a finished object, which I do not have with me, but I'll lean over here and I'll put a picture here of my mother in her curry-in sweater. And she loved it. And I'm forgetting what the yarn is. And so I'm putting that down here because I've talked about it before. This is the second time I've knit this sweater. The first time I knit it was in September, and I went to visit my mother a couple of weeks before her birthday, and I brought it and had her try it on. My mother is not making new memories very well these days, and I was really of two minds whether I should do that, because I knew if I had her try it on real quick, she wouldn't even remember, and she didn't. So I had her try it on, which I'm awfully glad I did, because it's totally too small for her. Couldn't possibly have managed the sweater. So I knit this sweater again from the first sweater. It was a little bit like it was a sweater blank, because I just knit it straight off the other sweater. I did buy more yarn. I bought 3 more balls of yarn. I ended up only using 1 of them. I had used every inch of the yarn to make that sweater the first time when I made it too small. This is my David's teacup. So, anyway. She loved it. She burst into tears, put it on. We took that picture. I finished knitting that sweater Friday night right before we left to visit my mom on Saturday. So I didn't get a chance to block it. In fact, today I have to call my parents because I told them I thought we were leaving on our vacation today until 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So I need to tell them we're not leaving till tomorrow, and to remind my dad, who's also not remembering things great, that the sweater is up drying, being blocked in the guest room upstairs, and he should go get it for Mama. And then she'll get another surprise and see a new sweater. I gave it to her Saturday night, and she loved it, and she wore it, and, well, you see the picture. Anyway, so Sunday morning, I'm putting it into soak in the kitchen, and she comes up and asks me, is that for me? But once she has the sweater and once she's wearing it, she'll remember. It's just really, really hard for her to make a new memory. But she does make memories. I mean, she does remember, that my sister visited, and she does remember that she's coming for Thanksgiving, things like that. So once she has the sweater, she'll remember it, and she'll remember that I made it for her birthday, and she will love it every time she puts it on. So I'm so glad I made it, and I'm glad it fit her. I did try to block it a couple inches longer because I thought it could be a couple of inches longer. And I had enough yarn to make it longer, but I didn't have enough time to make it longer. And frankly, I didn't realize it needed to be longer, or I probably would have been still knitting on it on Saturday. But it was long enough. It fits her well, and she loved it. So that's good. So that's my finished object. And that's a little out of chronological order. Since I podcast last, everything has been totally crazy around here. I podcast the Monday before Rhinebeck. So my pre-Rhinebeck episode. And so the Monday, for the week before Rhinebeck, I was busy working on my mother's sweater and cleaning the house and getting ready because we were having company, which we did. We had company the day after, the Monday after Rhinebeck, Sunday night. Rebecca and Stephanie, the Mean Girls, came and stayed with us. And we had such a wonderful time. They are lovely, lovely women. But in the build up to Rhinebeck, I'm having company, so I have to clean my house. And it was pretty funny because Rebecca had put out a small episode where, she talked about she has some germ phobias. And I was watching that podcast, and Dennis was watching it with me, and she starts talking about her germ phobias, and we looked at each other, and he said, uh-oh. But it turns out it's fine. She's not a clean freak. She just, more has to do with food. So that worked out great because she got her food untouched by other people, and everything was great, and it turned out to be no big deal. But that was pretty funny. We're like, uh-oh, because we are not clean freaks by any stretch of the imagination. But I did, clean the guest rooms and the bathrooms, and, so I was busy. But it was fun busy because it was in preparation for Rhinebeck. And so, this is Rhinebeck recap, in case anybody wondered. Maybe the last one. I mean, I'm late to the game. Everybody's done their podcast. So if you don't want to hear about Rhinebeck, and a lot of goodies to show, although more than half of the amazing things I have to show were gifts and not purchases by me, but they're still wonderful. In fact, they're as wonderful or more wonderful than what I bought. So if everything's going to be a mush, everything's going to be all together. So hopefully that'll work for you. And if it doesn't, I'm sorry. And, maybe the next one will be better. Although the next one is going to be all about my trip. OMG. So you might want to wait till next year for a regular episode. That's not true. Once we get into December, it'll be regular episodes. So anyway, my mother's sweater was my finished object. I have been doing some knitting since I finished her sweater. I did not allow myself to knit on anything until I finished my mother's sweater, and I finished it last Friday night. So the only knitting time I've had since I talked to you last, where I wasn't knitting on my mother's sweater, has been this past week. And so I was a little bit burnt out, frankly, from knitting. And we had a lot of stuff going on. So right after we came back from Rhinebeck and Stephanie and Rebecca went home, that was Monday night. We just kind of crashed Monday night because I hadn't gotten tons of sleep. And on Tuesday, we started taking our living room apart and moving every single thing out of our living room. When our lovely girl Dasha was in her last few weeks of life, our carpet took some horrible, disgusting hits, which we were not able to recover from. And so we decided to replace the carpeting in our living room. It was old and stained anyway, and it's not all Dasha's fault because there were coffee stains, and I'm the only coffee drinker. Well, I was. And so that wasn't on me. So anyway, we decided that we needed to replace the carpeting, and Dennis said he wasn't going to do Thanksgiving dinner here if we didn't replace the carpeting. And so that was not an option. So we took everything out. We've lived in this house since 2001, and the room I'm in is the only room that has been repainted from the decorations of the previous owner. This room was like a dark taupe color, and it was too dark, and so I had this painted, but we haven't done anything. So the living room was, luckily Dennis and I are on the same page in terms of how lazy we are and how much we care, and and how annoyed we are with things, because we hadn't done anything in terms of decorations and painting and redoing things. The woman who lived here before us did some lovely stuff, and while it wasn't necessarily to our taste, it was close enough that we weren't spending a lot of time redoing our decorations, or whatever. So anyway, so we've been in this house for 16 years, and it was time to paint the room. But we are lazy. We decided we didn't want to paint the woodwork. The woodwork looked fine. So the woodwork is kind of a sage green, and the walls were gold, like a yellowy dark gold. And the room is actually kind of a dark room. It doesn't have giant windows. It has one big window that faces southeast. So in the morning, it gets a little sun in there, but it's not a bright room. And so we decided to repaint it, but we painted it more of a cream color. So I think, when Jason and Allison walked into it after we were finished with it and had the furniture back in and everything, and they're like, did you paint this the same color? So it's really in the same color family, but it's much, much brighter. And it was very obvious when we were painting it that we were changing the color. But we didn't, we just updated the paint. We didn't redecorate the room. But we did fill in all the holes where they had taken their curtain rods down and things like that, which we hadn't done in 16 years. So, like I said, luckily Dennis and I have the same level of whatever this is, and so we're both fine with it. But it is nice to have it painted. But that meant we had to completely empty the room. And, if you're going to get new carpeting, you really want to paint before you get the new carpeting. So we painted the ceiling, we painted the walls, we had the room torn up. So we started that on Tuesday, and we were patching, and Dennis had to fix the ceiling and do stuff on Wednesday. Thursday we painted the ceiling, and Friday we painted the walls. So the house was, so the living room was all over the place. I posted some pictures on Instagram if you want to see sort of what was going on. But, and so we painted Friday, and then Saturday morning we went to my parents for overnight and came home on Sunday. And Sunday we retouched up the ceiling, because the ceiling isn't the best job, and it's still not the best job, but it's good enough. And the carpet came on Monday, and they spent, I was surprised how long it took them, because it's not a big room. But the carpet looks great. And so this past Monday night and Tuesday, we've been moving stuff back in. Not everything. I collect masks and faces. I love faces in art. And so I have quite a few faces. I have sculptures, I have masks, and my daughter got tired. I don't know. We'd been here 5 years, 10 years. We might have been here 10 years and hadn't done anything in terms of decorating. But anyway, so she put all my masks up on the wall. So, so we have had decorations since she did that. So I just let her know that I'm expecting she will be helping me put the masks back when she comes at Christmas. So now the walls are clean, and, and we patched all the little holes, took all the nails out, patched all the little holes. So now I have to actually decide where I want something instead of just saying, oh, there's a nail there, let me put something on it. But this is what we did on our way back after Rebecca and Stephanie left. And so we're still working on that. But the room is now livable, and turns out we aren't having nearly as many people for Thanksgiving as we originally had thought we would, which is good because we can all fit in the breakfast room, because the dining room still has all kinds of stuff in it, and I am not going to be able to have a chance to clear the dining room table before Thanksgiving, because we leave tomorrow and we don't come back until the Monday before Thanksgiving. So this was our only opportunity to do the carpet before Thanksgiving, so I'm glad we were able to do that. And it looks really nice, and the house smells better. And anyway, So while all that was going on, I was finishing my mother's sweater, and then since we've come back, I have been, you know, putting the living room back together a little bit and doing some knitting. And I worked on my Speckle and Pop shawl. I only did a little bit. I'm only about halfway through clue 1. And it's downstairs, and I'm not going to show you that, but I am happy with it, and I'll show it to you in the next podcast probably. Although I'm not taking it on my trip as my trip knitting. I'll show you my trip knitting. But a couple of days ago, I got an amazing package in the mail. My FiberShare partner, Maria, lives in Chile. And I had shown you the yarn that she gave me in my package. These are 3 of the yarns that I got in my FiberShare package. And she came to the United States, and she was in New York City, and it was so sad to me that that visit of hers coincided with my trip to my mother's for her birthday. So I didn't get to see her in person, and I didn't get to meet her. But we are planning to go to Chile, and I will be taking her out to dinner, at least. And maybe she can take me to some yarn jobs. So I will be meeting Maria, and I will be meeting her in Santiago, and I'm so excited about that. I'm not sure when. We had been thinking, oh my gosh, we should plan something for February, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, I got a box. When she was in New York, she mailed me a package of a sweater's quantity of this yarn. This yarn is Duwen yarn. It's 75% alpaca, 25% merino wool. It is so soft and wonderful. And she sent me a sweater's quantity. She sent, so with what I got in my FiberShare package, I have 7 of the mint and 3 of the gray. And this is such a squishy yarn, and I am calling it a worsted. It may be a little bit bigger than a worsted, but I'm not sure. This yarn is not in Ravelry, so I wasn't able to look up anything about it, and the website is in Spanish, so all I know is it's amazing. And I have now, because of Maria's unbelievable generosity, a sweater's quantity of this yarn. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I've got to find a pattern to do this. And I found a pattern that was had some lace and some cables, and I don't remember the name of it, but when I was reading the description, it said you need a yarn that has a lot of bounce back to make this work. And since this is 75% alpaca, I wasn't sure how much bounce back it would have. It was, that makes it more drapey. And I have had in my sights the boxy sweater by Hohilo Catelli. And I saw a woman in Rhinebeck, had her Rhinebeck sweater was a worsted boxy. And I've loved the boxy since I started knitting. Before as soon as I found Ravelry, I saw the boxy, and I wasn't sure how it would look on me. I'm a big woman, do I really want a giant sweater? This is the boxy on Hohi, and she's a little thing, and she looks great in it. This is the worsted boxy. But this woman had it on at Rhinebeck, and she looked great. And she, she was taller than me. But she was a, big woman, and she looked fabulous. Now, that sweater was in a variegated yarn, and this is my worsted boxy. I started it. This is 3 skeins of the mint color. I'm a little bit, this is getting kind of blown out. I'm a little bit concerned because, this is not a bright color in like full saturation or anything. There, that's not too bad. But, it's a light color, so you're gonna see me coming in this sweater, and so I'm a little concerned about that just because of the color, but I love this mint color. And my plan is to do the body in the mint. I have so much stuff next to me, oops, that I don't have anything I can just grab to change the color on that. I have a window right here. And and I'm going to do around the neck and the sleeves with this gray, which is also darker than is being shown. That's more like it right there. And I've also had this crazy idea of doing some sort of color work transition, a little bit of a color work transition so that it fades a little bit, but not fade like find your fade where you do one row and another row, although I could end up doing that because, I've only done one color work hat, and that was almost a year ago, so I don't know why I think I can do color work on a sweater. Anyway, this feels like a dream. I did swatch it, and it's going to drape amazingly. I do, based on the measurements of this is 9 inches, and I've used 3 skeins, including the skein that I did my swatch with, so not 3 full skeins. And so I should be able to do a nice a little bit longer body in the mint, and then I'll have enough gray to do the top and the sleeves. And I think if you look on the Worsted Boxy page, I saw someone else had done that, lighter color at the bottom and a contrasting color at the top, and it looks great. Anyway, when I was at my mother's, my niece, who is, young and gorgeous and thin and smart and beautiful and, anyway, perfect. And really lovely girl. She's wonderful. Anyway, she was wearing a shirt made out of just a light knitted fabric, but it was exactly the same style as the Boxy, with a really tight sleeve and then really big. But it was a little cropped. So I asked her how it was, and she says, well, when I raise my arms, it comes up and everything like that. She said, but when I'm wearing it with all this fabric, it's really like a hug. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I want to do with this yarn. It's going to be warm. It's going to be warm. And, but in a cold summer day, don't you just want a gorgeous mint sweater? Oh, but anyway, Maria, OMG. Plus, she also sent me another ball of this. This is gorgeous wool and silk combination. Oh, no. Linen and silk. I'm so sorry. It's 75% linen, 25% silk, and it's the same color as she sent before. So I have 2 of these. I'm not sure what the yardage is, but my plan is to make a summer sweater with that. That's going to be so gorgeous. Oh my gosh. So anyway, Maria, I cannot thank you enough. Your generosity just slayed me. You could ask Dennis how I reacted. I almost burst into tears. It was just unbelievably generous, and thank you so much. And I'm making a Boxy, and I hope, and I'll tell you that right now, if I don't love it in the Boxy, I'm frogging it and getting that yarn back, and I'll make something else, because that yarn is too delicious to waste in a sweater that I'm not going to wear. But I have a feeling I'm going to wear it. So I'm pretty excited. But Dennis informed me that, I shouldn't say it like that. I asked Dennis what he thought of taking this sweater as my project knitting on our trip. And Dennis, being the smart man that he is, was very careful in his response, but the bottom line was he didn't think it was practical. Because of all the yarn it will take, and how many balls of yarn, and how big is your carry-on, and how big is your suitcase? So that project will not be coming with me on our trip. And I had pulled together a whole bunch of, I have this bag. This bag is is holding my travel projects, which, so now I'm really getting out of order, my travel projects. But I started one of them last night. I am making a sockhead hat for that amazing niece and her sister. Each asked for hats last year when I was giving away knitted things and gave them a gift certificate, and they're like, oh, I would love a hat. I'm like, okay, what color? Black. I've never knit with black before. So anyway, I got this yarn, and I'll talk about the yarn because I bought the yarn in at Rhinebeck. So I will discuss the, see the pop, oh, here it is. This is the yarn that I am making these with. It's the Periwinkle Sheep Watercolors 2 in the Witch's Cauldron colorway. So I have one for Ella and one for Janine. And so these are, and this is 100% superwash merino, machine wash, delicate dry flat, made in South America, hand dyed in Albany, New York. And it's this is not a super saturated. You can see that the color is not super saturated. So if you were looking for like a deep dark black, this may not be what you want, but for me, you know, it's a black hat, but it's going to have a little bit of interest, and I really like the way that's turning out. So I started knitting this last night, and oh my gosh, it's going really fast. I'm done with the rib already. But I had only knit about this much on it, and I was getting a headache. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're really, you know, because I was just sitting at the table with the normal overhead light in the middle of the day. But oh my gosh, I thought, I'm going to go blind and have a headache the whole time I'm knitting this. So my sister had given me a present, which I had never tried, and it is a light. And you wear it around your neck, and it puts light right at your hands. Oh my gosh, this is the perfect. So I'm bringing this with me. This added enough light to the, so could do it in red too. Added enough light right on where my hands were knitting that it made all the difference. So this is now in my knitting bag, and because I need to make 2 of these hats, and I thought, it occurred to me, I may ball this up and bring it. I thought I was only going to bring one because I'm bringing other things too, but I might bring them both because it really is, with my light on, easy knitting. Because it's just stockinette. So that's the sockhead hat that I'm knitting. And that's by Kelly McClure. And it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I think the girls will like it. I have no idea if they like slouchy hats, but we'll find out because they're getting a slouchy hat. So the other, those are my whips. My boxy worsted, oh Maria, I cannot tell you how amazing and shocking that package was. I was blown away. And I'm so excited about my sweater, but I'm not going to be able to finish it till I get back. So I will tell you about the rest of my trip knitting. I am going to be knitting the granddaughters, their hats. I showed this yarn a while ago. I bought this in September. So I'm going to be knitting Isabel a bear because blue is her favorite color. And I'm knitting Samantha a lion because the colors are amazing. The lion is adorable. I may be getting another one of these with a giraffe head. And I may put a giraffe head that doesn't match on top of this hat because giraffes are her favorite color. But how could you resist that lion and those colors? I am so drawn to those pinks and oranges. I do not know why. Anyway, so I'm going to be knitting on these on the trip. And my nephew is having a baby boy, and I will be knitting that baby boy an antler cardigan. I bought this also on my vacation in September, so I am going to be making a blue antler cardigan by Tin Can Knits for my nephew's baby boy, who is due around Thanksgiving. So I am bringing all gift knitting on my trip. But I will be on the lookout for yarn. Although I don't know, I will be very surprised if I find any yarn on my trip. But this is my trip knitting, all in this bag, and I'm going to get a small project bag so I can carry it around, because we're flying to Tel Aviv via Madrid, so we have a lot of plane time, and we're doing a couple of internal trips by bus, so you know there's going to be a lot of bus, although when you're driving around the Middle East you really want to look out the window. So anyway, I'll be prepared. I will have plenty of knitting. But I think I am going to skein up that other thing so I can do 2 sock head hats if I'm really motivated and have enough time. But the sweater, after I finish this sock head hat, the sweater's next, because the other things are all Christmas presents, and that sweater I'm going to give as soon as the baby's born, around Thanksgiving. So that's my knitting and everything that goes around with my knitting. And now comes Rhinebeck and everything that goes with Rhinebeck. So if you're sick of hearing about Rhinebeck, I do not blame you. I know everybody's done a podcast with Rhinebeck. You know, I may be the last podcaster to be talking about Rhinebeck. Probably not. I'm not that late. But anyway. So after I finished cleaning the house, I drove up to Kingston, New York on Friday. I stayed at the Super 8 Motel, which is right next to the Best Western Conference Center, and that Best Western is where the Indie Untangled is being held. I looked into staying at the Best Western, but it was $240 a night or something. I'm like, forget that, because I want to stay 2 nights. So I stayed at the Super 8, which was, you know, I mean, it was a basic motel, but it was clean and it was next door, so I walked, and it worked out perfectly fine. So I did that, and I saved myself a lot of money, let me tell you. So I checked in, and I basically walked over to Indie Untangled. It was mobbed, so that was like, it was after 5. No, actually, it was probably a few minutes before 5, because I ended up standing in a really long line, which moved very quickly because they weren't doing anything to regulate the number of people that were going in. They were just stopping us because it wasn't 5 o'clock yet. And so I was in the back of a very long line, and there were people outside and saying, oh, you know, it's really hot in there. And, you know, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's really hot in there because it's 75 degrees and we're all wearing knitwear. Well, I was. Not everybody was. Other people were smarter. So I went and got in that big long line, and once they opened the doors, we just all went in, and it was packed. It was packed. I did not have a plan for Rhinebeck in terms of yarn. I was looking for black yarn for the sock head hats, which I did find. And that was really all, but I went there with the idea, like, I really have a lot of yarn, so I don't want to go crazy. And I have a huge closet full of fiber, which I have not been spinning very much since we got Pearl in May. And I need to get back to spinning But I knew I didn't really want to buy fiber unless something really jumped out at me. But I ended up not even really looking at fiber. So anyway, I went to India Untangled. It was a mob scene. I met Helen Stewart. I wore my, why can't I remember the name of that shawl now? It was her mystery knit along. It's the half pie shawl. Putting it there. Snow melt. I remember snow melt. I was wearing my snow melt, and I will put a pic. I'm not going to put a picture of everybody I met because in my snow melt with Helen Stewart, I will put here. But I'm not going to, you've seen all those pictures. And look at me. I didn't even put makeup on or anything. I'm going to put makeup on next time because all my pictures. Anyway, I did. I also, I took quite a few pictures. I got my picture taken with the Grocery Girls and with Very Little Marcia from Very Little Podcast and the Yarn Enabler and the Cozy Knitter and Amanda, the Yarn Enabler. She's so funny. I'm like, and I'm like, oh my chin. She says, oh, here's the trick. Hold the camera really high, and then you have to look up. So that's why all my pictures I'm like that, because that was my advice from Amanda, the Yarn Enabler. Thank you, my dear. I appreciated it. It didn't help because I still didn't have makeup on. So, as everyone has told you, India Untangled was like sardines. And since, I didn't have a plan, and I didn't have anything in particular I wanted. And I have a tendency to get overwhelmed in big shows like this. And, like if I walk in and see a gajillion skeins of yarn, it's very hard for me to pick yarn. I have a tendency to just grab something or whatever. I still have yarn from the first Maryland Sheep and Wool. In fact, I don't think I've knit any of the yarn I bought at Maryland Sheep and Wool that first year because I just went crazy. So I decided I wasn't doing that. But I did make one purchase at India Untangled. Lorelei Erdo, who is a lovely woman who is also a jewelry maker. She has the Handmade by Lorelei podcast, and she had knit a shawl, and I think it's called the Lucky Charm Shawl. Lucky Charm Shawl by Melody Hoffman. She's e-Mandarin. And she knit, when I saw that shawl on Instagram, I said, I want to knit that shawl in that yarn. And this is this. It's Tuscan Knits. And I got 3 skeins of it. And I am eventually going to knit that shawl. It's a slip stitch shawl. It's got tassels on it. It is just absolutely gorgeous. And it takes 3 skeins. And I loved it. I loved the color, and I loved how it looked knit up in that shawl. And so I'm just like, I want that, whatever that is. That's what I want. So it's the fur. It's 100% superwash merino single, and it's her fur base in her Har colorway, H-A-A-R. And anyway, absolutely gorgeous. So this is all I bought at Friday night at India Untangled. But Friday night was the night I was meeting a group of amazing women. And I told you this story, now this will be the 3rd time, and so I'll tell it really quick. But last year, I had just started podcasting. I'd only had a couple podcasts by the time I went to Rhinebeck. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a soul, and nobody knew me. And I hadn't kind of made a break for it from India Untangled, and it wasn't as bad last year as it was this year. I mean, it was very busy, but this year seems a lot worse. And I kind of busted out of India Untangled and ended up in the restaurant next door, which was also much more organized last year than this year. And I ended up sitting next to a group of women who were so lovely and so welcoming, and it just made my night, and it just set the tone for Rhinebeck last year. It was so lovely. Well, of course, you know, social media or whatever. I'm Facebook friends and follow you know, some of them on Instagram, or all of them from last year, I guess. And 2 of them came back. And so we had plans for dinner. So there was a small group that there were some people there who I hadn't met before. And then there was Gretchen. Hey, Gretchen. And her son Parker, who is adorable. I think he's like 13. And so cute. I mean, oh my gosh. And her significant other, Ryan, and they were there. And Christy Labor, who is a yarn dyer and lovely, lovely woman. Christy. And the people I met for the first time were Kayleen, who is, and I wrote this down, so Little Bean Crochet, and she does yarn dyeing, Little Bean Crochet on Etsy, and gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. And she is lovely. And I was not familiar with her podcast. I really like her podcast. I'm a subscriber. I really liked it. And I like her demeanor on her podcast. Anyway, she was lovely, lovely to meet. We had a wonderful time together. And then I met Amanda and her mother, Wanda. Oh no, what happened to... Excuse me while you look down my shirt. I wonder what Oh, I put it in a bag. I might have just cut that out because who wants to see that, right? So anyway... we were exchanging gifts, and I knew that ahead of time. And so I made sets of stitch markers, and I gave everybody a set of stitch markers. But I have to say that it seems like maybe I got a better deal than they did. Because I got some really lovely stuff. So one thing I got was this beautiful yarn from Christy Labor, and she is Labor Designs on Ravelry. She does some, she designs patterns too. Isn't this gorgeous? And I need to find out if she sells the yarn as well, but she doesn't have she only has her Ravelry store, which would be just for the patterns, I think. Isn't this beautiful? I love these colors. I love these colors. It's to me, it feels a little bit like, you know, autumn by the sea. I don't know. Anyway, beautiful yarn. And this is Superwash Merino single. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Oh, thank you, Christy. So beautiful. In a very nice little package, So that was beautiful from Christy. And then Gretchen, oh my gosh, crazy woman. Gretchen, I am so sorry. I did not see my granddaughters before Halloween. And so I wasn't able to give them their Halloween bags in time. So I haven't even given them to them yet because they're still full of yarn because I used them to get my yarn home. Aren't these cute? So she sent me home with 2 bags for my granddaughters, and they didn't even get them yet. I'm sorry. For their trick-or-treat candy. And it sounds like they needed it because apparently they had so many trick-or-treaters, just so much candy. They're like, I asked Isabel, how much candy do you have? Did you get from, how much candy did you get? I'm sorry, I just found a little thing in this bag. For Halloween, she said, a ton. So anyway. Oh! I just pulled this thing. Oh no. Oh good. It's got an on and off button. This is the bag that Gretchen gave me. Is that adorable? Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I blinked. It's a felt. It's felt. And it's a Halloween bag. How fun. Oh my gosh. And it blinks. But she filled this bag. She gave me the 2 bags for the granddaughters. She filled this bag. She gave me this yarn. Wendy's Wonders. Cranberry Cinnamon Cocktail. Superwash merino gradient. In a worsted. This will be a gorgeous hat. Isn't that beautiful? Look at those fall colors. And it's called Cranberry Cinnamon Cocktail. That sounds delicious. But she also put all kinds of stuff in. She made some Russian tea. So this is like a spice tea, which I haven't tried yet because I had to show it, and I've been so late with the podcast. I'm so sorry. And soap and pins and anyway, I can't show you everything. It's just too much. Thank you, my dear. So this was from Gretchen, and that smells so good, and that yarn is so beautiful. And then from Kayleen, look at this beautiful bag. And in it, she gave me a mini skein of her yarn. Isn't that beautiful? I should take it out of the bag. She has an Etsy shop, and her yarns are absolutely gorgeous. Little Bean Crochet on Etsy. Absolutely stunning. And there's a, I'm not remembering the name of it, but there's sort of a fall color that she has that I'm thinking I want a sweater out of. It is absolutely gorgeous, and the yarn is lovely. Isn't that beautiful? This is going to be gorgeous in my crochet blanket. Let me tell you. But she also gave a notebook and some washi tape and this beautiful bag and buttons and little pom-poms and teas. It was just so sweet. So sweet. And then Amanda and her mother, Wanda, gave me a bag. Look at this. Look at this pumpkin. Isn't that adorable? I love it. Oh, needle felting's on my list. I bought myself a kit. I'm going to be doing needle felting, but this is so beautiful. I loved it. And then they have, let me make a lot of noise. They have Vetter's Velt Farm in Indiana, Pennsylvania. And they make all kinds of stuff. So this is solid body butter bar and soap. Oh, and this is one of those bath bombs where you just throw it in and it dissolves. And I've never had one. I'm so excited. And I can have scent in my bathtub. I am allergic to scent generally. And then they gave me. And they do not have, I don't think they have a website, Peppermint Lip Balm, but they have their phone number on. So if you need something, you can call them. I'll find out how that's going to work. But anyway, so I will admit that after getting that beautiful, all those beautiful things, I was a little worried that my stitch markers may not have been sufficient because these guys were so generous. And I do promise Gretchen, the girls will get their bags and they will love them, even if their candy isn't in them. So that was really nice. So I started thinking about gifts, and I thought, well, I'm meeting up with everybody else and maybe my gifts aren't enough. And then I decided I would pick up a few things in case, you know, we were going to exchange gifts and with Rebecca and Stephanie, and I was going to meet David Dogdare and Nancy from the Round Rabbit and Lorelei, and I was hoping to spend some time with them, which I did, and it was lovely. But we didn't end up exchanging gifts. It's hard to know. You know, I guess you got to organize things ahead of time. But I had bought these things because I thought they were adorable. And so I am going to be using them for, plus the beautiful one that Wanda made. Or Amanda, I'm not sure who. which of them made them, but I got these pumpkins, and so I'm going to be decorating my table with these because I love them. For Halloween. And from the same place, I got this little gnome. And I have no idea what the store was. I am not that organized, but isn't that cute? And then later I found these, which I also, I think I found these on Sunday because I was with, I'm not sure who I was with. Carapace Farm Puppetry, carapacfarm.com. I got these, and I'm going to put these on the table for Thanksgiving too. I have 2 of these, but inside is a little finger puppet mouse. Isn't he cute? So there's a little mouse in each one of them. And so I'm going to put these on the table, and I got one for each of the girls. So the mouse goes in the pumpkin. This one has a gray mouse in the pumpkin. Anyway, so those are going to go on the table. These are for the granddaughters. And this was from Carapace Farm. So those were fun. So those are some of the little things that I got. And those are going to be my Thanksgiving decorations. Since I didn't give them away, I'm going to keep them. And, oh, good. There's my other fingerless mitt. I haven't been able to find it since Rhinebeck. But I made that last year. So on Saturday, so I got all those gifts. I jumped ahead with the pumpkins. All those gifts from the ladies on Friday night at dinner. We had a lovely dinner. And I met David, and Nancy and David were having dinner, so I went over and introduced myself because I had never met David in person. I had met Nancy last year at Rhinebeck. And David is just as lovely as I'm sure you have imagined from his podcast. If you watch it, the Dog Dare podcast. He's David Dog Dare on Instagram and Dog Dare on Ravelry. What a lovely, lovely man. So I went and introduced myself because I had some plans to see them on Saturday. Because Saturday is when the Mean Girls were showing up at Rhinebeck, and they got there around noon. So I promised Stephanie that I would have cider donuts for them. I knew by the time they came, the line for the cider donuts was going to be out the door. So first thing, I got there early on Saturday, and so I was standing in line, and the line was was very long, and I was in the back third of it, I guess, maybe. But it didn't matter. Once they opened the doors, they just let you in. I already had my ticket. I had bought my tickets online, so I had my ticket in my hand, and so you just hang around the line and talk, and it was lovely people. And so then I went in, and it turns out I didn't go in the main entrance from where I was parked. It was just as close to go to the other entrance, which is, they call it the 4-H entrance. Turns out that's the entrance that you want to get in line for if you want to go to Jenny the Potter. There are several places that seem to be people's first where they want to go. Jenny the Potter is one of them. So this was the line to be in if you were going straight to Jenny the Potter, which a lot of people apparently were, because I showed a picture on Instagram of by the time I got there to walk past Jenny the Potter, just as I was walking in, there was already a big line of people who, because she was making sure not too many people got in the booth. I mean, you start banging around in a pottery booth, it's pretty easy to break stuff, so I can understand that. So, but I made a beeline for the apple cider donuts. I was all organized. I had a plastic thing to put them in so that and little bags to put them in so that they didn't get smushed and, and so I was very prepared to be in charge of the donuts. So, so when I saw David in the morning, I gave him donuts for him and Nancy and, Lorelei. And I had the donuts for Stephanie and Rebecca. And so I was just wandering around. I did do some shopping on Saturday. And then the podcasters meetup was at 1:00. And podcasters meetups are very interesting. It's mostly for podcasters to meet other podcasters, although of course we all announce it and say, if you're going to be there, come and find me. And thank you so much, Paula, for finding me. And a lovely lady and her daughter. And I'm so sorry I've forgotten your name. And I feel like a jerk. I have your picture. Put your picture there. And I didn't get a picture with Paula. Hi, Paula. And, so I was not doing very well in the whole podcaster thing. But I gave out my swag, which was, of course, my stitch markers. And I met a bunch of people, and I got my picture taken. And you guys don't want to see those pictures. I mean, really. But it was a lot of fun, and hanging out with the Mean Girls. And then we hooked up with David and Nancy and Lorelei. And so after the podcasters meetup, we went to find food for them. I had chicken salad because Dennis had made me lunch because I'm like, standing in those lines. But when you're with other people who don't have their lunch, you still end up standing in the line, which was fine. So it was basically, let's find the shortest line. That's how they decided what they were going to eat, by what the shortest line was. And that was fun. And while we were waiting in line, David went off to find some other people he had been planning to hook up with. And they were some distance from us, and so he went to get them so they could find us. Hi, Diane. Hi, Miriam. So they ended up coming after we ate. And then I ran into Susan. Hello, Susan. And so I have a picture of us with Miriam at one end next to me and Susan at the other end and Susan's friend in the middle. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. I don't have a great memory. I don't know what I'm going to be like when I'm my mother's age. I'll probably be worse. Anyway, so that was fun to be able to spend some time and talk to them. And while we were waiting in line, it turns out that Rebecca is very afraid of bees. And so she was screaming and running away and screaming and running away. And I guess bees are a little bit like dogs. If they see your fear, anytime you have somebody who doesn't really care for dogs, your dog's going to be all over that person. They always do that. I don't know why they do that. And those bees were all over Rebecca. They just couldn't stay away from her. And she was screaming and running around and screaming and running around. And I felt bad for her, but it was pretty funny to watch. Sorry. I mean, she was like, she'd be talking, having a normal conversation with you, and suddenly, and she'd run away. And, we were swatting and helping her. We weren't laughing at her. But, when you talk about it later, it was pretty... It made it hard for her to have conversations with people, to tell you the truth, because it's funny, because those bees were finding her. And so, finally she's like, I got to go in and, look at the yarn and whatever. So we did that. And we did look at yarn, and then we made plans to meet for dinner. And so they were staying at an Airbnb in Kingston. So we all met at a noodle place, Yum Yum, which was good. I was a little disappointed in my dinner, but everybody else liked theirs. Mine tasted fine. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And we had a lovely dinner, and that was fun to hang out with them. And I had walked from my hotel. It was about a 15-minute walk. And so I was going to walk back, and and David decided I shouldn't walk back by myself. So everybody decided they were going to walk me back to my hotel. which for some reason they thought was around the corner. I did not say it was around the corner. It took me 15 minutes to get there. It's not around the corner. Anyway, so they're walking me, but the whole time they're walking me, they're pissing and moaning that they have to walk so far. And Becca's accusing me of sleeping under the, trees. Like I didn't really have a hotel room and I was too embarrassed to say it. And, complaining. And from the back, I hear complaining. I'm like, look, you people, I didn't tell you had to walk me home. I was perfectly happy to walk home myself. So eventually they all stood on a corner waiting for David, and David walked me all the way back. Another 2 blocks to my hotel, but it wasn't very far and I would have been fine, and I did not need them to walk me back. So all that pissing and moaning, it was like, really? They were funny. But David, is a lovely man, and he walked me back to my hotel, which was nice. And Dennis had sent along some wine, so I sent that back with David, and they liked Dennis's wine, which I was very happy to hear. And that was nice. They invited me for breakfast the next morning. David invited me to come to breakfast the next morning. But I thought, let the roomies have their time together. They don't need somebody hanging out with them all the time. So I did not join them for breakfast. So I didn't. That was my goodbye to David, because he was leaving the next day. He didn't go back to the festival on Sunday. But I met up with Rebecca and Stephanie again, and so we spent our day wandering around, meeting people, saying hi. Sunday, we ran into Helen and Mary Beth, the Crafty Toads, and this is my favorite picture from the whole thing. This is Helen. I'm putting it here. I'm only putting a couple pictures, but this is Helen in her Rhinebeck sweater on waste yarn, because she ran out of yarn again. She didn't get to finish that one sleeve, and she's very close because it was a short sleeve or elbow length sleeve sweater. So she was very close, and I think most people wouldn't even have noticed it if they, hadn't been up close to her. Anyway, it was a beautiful sweater, and it was hilarious. I thought she was my hero. She's wearing her sweater even if she didn't finish it. So I loved that. And so I was walking around with the mean girls, and of course they were attracting a lot of attention. And so there were a lot of people who wanted to talk to them. So that was fun. So I did do some shopping. We did most of our shopping, I think, on Sunday, because it was so crowded on Saturday. It was crowded. So I will show you what I bought at Rhinebeck. I already showed you the periwinkle sheep in the Witch's Cauldron, which I really like. I think I'm going to like that hat. I'm not going to make myself one in black. I'm not. I went to the Going Gnome booth, and so I am going to make myself some. This is a needle felting kit to make 6 gnomes. I figure by the time I get to the 6th gnome, I might have figured it out. I have a lot of roving, so I don't need a kit if I know what I'm doing. But it's nice to have all the colors, and you can see all the, the hat colors are up here, and the beard stuff and everything, and instructions. So I'm excited to do this, because the only thing you have to add is the foam. But I bought foam at the Lehigh, because I've had this on my mind for a while. At the Lehigh Fiber Festival, I bought the foam and a needle, and this has a needle in it too. So this is one thing I bought. I'm going to be making some needle felted gnomes. Maybe I can do some of those for the Advent, because my tiny things aren't happening very well. So another thing I bought, I don't know, I was really entranced by this. This is 50% cashmere and 50% silk, and this is thread. I mean, this is so light. So I had this idea that it's 2,000 yards, that I'm going to ply this together to make a very light lace weight, and then do something with it. Maybe I'll chain ply it so I won't even have 2,000 yards when I'm done. So but I'll have enough. Even if I chain ply it so it's a 3-ply, I would have enough for some kind of a shawl or a very lacy overtop, something like that. But I just fell in love with this. I thought I want to give it a try. I don't know why. I mean, the woman who sells this makes things out of this size. It's like real lacy stuff. So she does Estonian lace and Skaska designs. And she does amazing. She has a book about Estonian lace stuff. I mean, her stuff is so gorgeous. But I don't know if I could knit with anything quite so thin. Can you even see that? I don't even know if you can see that. How thin that is. You could knit that on toothpicks. But anyway, I had some idea. I was going to apply it, maybe play it with something else. Yeah, I'm not sure. My friend Simona does recovery yarns that she gets from thrift shops. So maybe I'll get some cashmere, very light cashmere. When you take a machine knitted sweater apart, the yarn is very thin. Anyway, I don't know what I'm doing, but I bought it anyway. The other thing I bought that was ridiculous. So I bought these 2 skeins for the hats. I bought these 2 skeins, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I bought them anyway. And on Sunday when I was with the girls, the mean girls, I bought a sweater's quantity of this. This was on sale. Buy 3, get 1 free. This is Solo Silk. And, oh, I'm trying to read who sold me this, but it's not that easy. Ugh, I am not organized. Brooks Farm yarn. Brooks Farm yarn, and that was buy 3, get 1 free. And I thought, oh my gosh, this would be a beautiful sweater. So I bought 4. I bought 3 and got 1 free. So this is a fingering weight sweater that I will be making at some time. So this is 400 yards, so I have 1,600 yards of it. Isn't that beautiful? The mean girls got some of this yarn too, not in this color, while they were out and about. Oh, I think I'm missing 1 skein of yarn. Oh well. And then, I'm so ridiculous. There was a woman there who's destashing yarn that her mother had. And so she was getting rid of yarn that her mother had. And it was so cheap. Now I can't stand passing up a bargain. So this is cotton in the Wild Grape. I think the color is Wild Grape Combo. And this is lace weight cotton. Seems like lace weight. Pretty light cotton. In a cone, and I don't know how much the cone weighs. It cost me $3. So I bought it. I loved the color. And I thought I could do something with this. So I bought it. So then she had these. This is a boucle and a mohair or brushed wool. My guess is more like brushed wool, but I don't know. It doesn't say what it is. But anyway, I thought these 2 went together and I could hold them double and make myself something out of this. And these were each $10 a cone. I know. I don't know why I do that. But I did. But I thought this would make a beautiful sort of jacket sweater. you know, I haven't knit it up. I haven't had a chance to do anything. I haven't swatched it to see what it would do. But it's wool, and I think it'll be kind of nice. So those are the yarns that I bought. So I bought the hat yarn. I bought the shawl yarn at Indian Tangled, and I bought the sweater yarn. And then I bought these cones for $23. I got all this yarn for $23. I just couldn't resist. I don't know why I do that, though, because what am I going to do with this? I don't know. If you have any suggestions, I would be happy to hear it. I have some idea. I'd like to make something that looks like a jacket, or that is a jacket. So that was Rhinebeck, and it was wonderful. And it was so great to see everybody. And thank you everyone who came up and said hello. And I got to meet lots and lots of podcasters and some people who were in our group. And I had an amazing time. And so we left on Sunday to drive, and we were driving separately. And the girls, I don't know, they always have an adventure. So they got to my house maybe 2 hours after me. They stopped at a Wawa. I mean, if you watch their podcast, you saw why, you know, so that was fine. So they came, and they stayed Sunday night, and Dennis made us crab cakes and salad, and it was delicious, and we drank his wine, and we sat and talked till midnight, and it was lovely. And they got to play with Pearl, and it was really nice. And, you know, they liked Dennis liked them, and we really had a good time. And so we went to bed because, you know, we were like, oh, we got to get to sleep, because we were meeting Jake at a restaurant that was local to my house. It's about 45 minutes or an hour for him, at 7 o'clock in the morning. Because Jake was in the middle of moving. I mean, originally the Mean Girls had been planning on staying with Jake and Ray. And that was the plan when they decided to go to Rhinebeck. But after that, Ray got an apparently amazing opportunity from work, and they up and moved. And they're moved now. They're living in Arizona, and so it was in the middle of everything, and so that's why the girls came to stay with us. But we still they still wanted to see Jake. Ray was already in Arizona, so there was no seeing Ray, which was too bad. But we got to see Jake, and he was cleaning out, you know, stuff. He was getting the house ready to sell, and he had wine bottles that he wanted to know if Dennis wanted, because he was trying to clear them out. And of course Dennis wants them, because he's been making wine like crazy. So that was really sweet. And he included there was an empty spot in, I guess, one of the cases, and he put a bottle of wine in it. So that was really sweet. Thank you, Jake. I hope everything's going great on your move. But anyway, so we went and had breakfast with Jake. Met him at 7, and I have a picture of us. And the girls, I don't usually eat breakfast, and I don't usually eat that early, so I didn't really order breakfast. But Jake and I made the mistake of discussing Scrapple before they ate it. So even though they liked the way it tastes, they really couldn't eat it, because Scrapple is, you know, it's like hot dogs. You don't want to know what's in them, right? Scrapple's the same kind of way, because this is a Pennsylvania Dutch meat product that is made, you know, they used to make it at home, you know, but it was basically everything that's left over from processing, you know, animals. Everything that's left over goes into the Scrapple, but it's actually delicious. It's crispy, but it's like soft in the middle, very crispy on the outside and soft in the middle. So it's an interesting, maybe strange texture. But it tastes good, and you can put syrup on it, and everything tastes good with syrup on it. But anyway, so I ordered that, so they got a chance to taste it. And we had a lovely breakfast and got to spend some time with Jake, so that was nice. And so this is Monday morning, and so we decide, you know, we're up and down about what we want to do because they're a yarn shop, you know, they want to definitely go to a yarn shop. They want to definitely have cheesesteak. And then, because Philadelphia is famous for their cheesesteak. And, you know, they were a little bit they were open for whatever. So we had some discussion. I mean, I have a really good cheesesteak guy near me, not in Philadelphia. So they, you know, we didn't have to go into the city to get the cheesesteak because we could do other things too. But they decided they'd like to go to Philly. I'm fine with that. So Stephanie drove us into Philadelphia, and we actually, the drive-in was not bad at all. I was really happy because it can, even in the, you know, we left around 10 o'clock to miss the commuting traffic because it was Monday morning, but it could still have been a mess, but it wasn't, and so that was good. So we ended up parking down by Independence Hall and walking around there, and by that time we were ready for cheesesteak. So we found the cheesesteak place that I've gone to a few times and I like, and they, you know, they agree, got to have it with whiz. They got one of them got provolone, one of them got whiz, and they split, you know, so they got to taste both, and we all agreed whiz. I got mine with whiz. So anyway, so they loved the cheesesteak, them eating cheesesteak. And then we walked around, you know, we walked around Independence Mall area. We peeked in the window at the Liberty Bell. Personally, I don't think it's worth waiting in line to see the Liberty Bell. And so we took some pictures and wandered around. And then we essentially wandered down from 4th and Market to 19th and South, which is quite a meander, but, you know, it was a beautiful day, and we stopped in a couple places on the way, along the way, and so we ended up at 19th and South is where Loop Yarn Shop is, and it's a beautiful shop. I had never been in there before. I knew about it, but I hadn't been in there, and I bought a skein of yarn at Loop. Oh, I do have it. I bought a skein of yarn at Loop. Both Stephanie and Rebecca were looking for sweaters, quantities of yarn, and so we did a lot of exploring. And one of the yarns that she put together was sort of a blue-gray, along with this yarn. This is Backyard Fiberworks, which 100% merino in the seed colorway. Now I have a shawl. I bought Backyard Fiberworks yarn at Maryland Sheep and Wool this year, and I knit that up into a beautiful shawl. But when I was looking at that, I was so drawn to the combination, and I said, you know, I have a navy blue fingering with white in it that I got on my trip when I visited my sister in July, and it's got white spots in it, so when it knits up, it looks a little bit like the night sky. And I thought that yarn and this yarn together would be great. So I ended up buying it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, because I was thinking, well, Stephanie had shown me the Zweig sweater, Z-W-E-I-G or Z-W-I-E-G, I'm not sure which sweater, which has color work and lace weight in the yoke, and then all one color that she's knitting. And so I was kind of inspired by that and thought maybe I would do that. I don't know if I'm going to, but I bought this. So this is what I bought at Loop. The other thing we bought at Loop was we all got bracelets. So we got matching bracelets. I got the dark brown, and Stephanie got the black, and Rebecca got the light brown. So this is a leather measuring tape, and I have to tell you, I really enjoyed wearing it. I'm going to wear it on my trip, and I have used it. It's so nice to have a measuring thing right, and I love the look of it. I think it's lovely. So we're triplets, so we all match. They were wearing theirs on their podcast, but they forgot to mention it. But I saw them wearing it. It was so much fun. So we all have the same bracelet, so that's fun. So I put them. We walked a few blocks back to where we could catch a taxi. I put them in the taxi to take them back to their car because they had to head back to Newark Airport, and I went and I cut the train home. And so that was a lovely, lovely visit. It was so much fun to meet them and to spend time with them. I love these girls. And they were so sweet. They had given me a present, a thank you present for putting them up. And it was so lovely. So this is all about Seattle. Coffee, Sleepless in Seattle, the Space Needle, the Pioneer Square. Anyway, I love Seattle. We lived in the Seattle area for a couple years before we moved into this house in 2001. So I love Seattle. And this is a beautiful bag with a handle. Maybe I'll think about taking this on my trip. And they gave me yarn. This is Dream in Color yarn, smushy cashmere. Smushy with cashmere and Jilly with cashmere. Oh, I didn't realize they were different. 70, 20, 10. This is 2. So maybe it's just the color's different. Oh, one's a single and one's a 2-ply. But they feel great and they're beautiful together. This is a ply, 2-ply at least, I think. And the beige is a single. Gorgeous. I really love them. Thank you, ladies. And this wonderful bag. I'm so excited. And it's got these dots. It's really beautiful. So this was a lovely present. Thank you very much. But I'm not knitting anything for Dennis out of this yarn, so forget it. He is SOL because this is for me. Beautiful. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell. It was a wonderful weekend, and it was, I was a little brain dead. We were at the breakfast with Jake, and he's like, "What's the best part?" And I'm sitting there, and Stephanie's like coaching me, meeting us, meeting. I'm like, yes, of course, it was the people, meeting Stephanie and Rebecca, and meeting David, and seeing Nancy and Lorelei again. And the ladies on Friday night, Gretchen and Christy, and meeting Kayleen and Amanda and Wanda. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful weekend. And it was the people that made it wonderful. There's no two ways about it. It was the people that made it wonderful. Oh, and I was able to, our 24 days of cheer or Christmas or whatever, our Advent exchange that we did among several podcasts. My partner was Helen of the Crafty Toads, and so I delivered hers. The way I packaged it, it ended up being a huge thing in a giant Christmas bag, so I arranged to give it to her rather than try to mail it, so that was good. And so I was able to do that, and that made me smile because otherwise I wasn't sure how I was going to get that to her. The prizes that I drew last week, I will mail before I leave tomorrow, so I'm going to be packaging them up this afternoon while I'm editing this, and while this is posting. And so they will be going out before I leave. And so tomorrow I leave. I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to the Middle East. I'm so excited. I can barely stand it. We fly into Tel Aviv, and we spend one full day in Tel Aviv, and then we drive across the border to Jordan, and we spend 2 nights near the Dead Sea in Jordan. And we're bringing our bathing suits and our water shoes, and we're going to swim in the Dead Sea. And then we drive down to Petra, and we spend 2 nights around Petra. And Petra is an amazing ancient city carved out of the cliff. And that's going to be wonderful to see. And then, we're going to be driving through and seeing Wadi Rum, which is, I had never heard of it before, but discovered it on this itinerary. And it's an amazing landscape with colors and formations and things, and that'll be fun. And then we get on a ship and sail down the coast of Egypt in the Red Sea. And so we're on this ship. It holds 85 passengers or something. So it's a lovely small cruise ship. And then I think we're only one night on the ship and a half a day or so, and then we fly to Luxor, Egypt, and we're going to have afternoon tea in a fancy old British hotel. If you watch Agatha Christie's Poirot on PBS or BBC, there are several episodes where he's in Egypt and he stays at this hotel. Agatha Christie stayed at this hotel when she was writing Death on the Nile. And anyway, so we're having afternoon tea. I'm bringing a dress for that because I'm going to dress up. And then the next day we go to the Valley of the Kings and cross the Nile. And that'll be amazing. And then we fly back to the boat, and we're on the boat for one more night. And then we have a day trip to Giza, where we will see the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids and those amazing ancient Egyptian monuments. And anyway, I'm so excited. I thought I would never be able to see those because the, political climate and everything, but it seems like things are calm. And our trip is a go. So then we go back to the ship and we sail through the Suez Canal back up along the coast of Israel, and we dock in Haifa, and we stay there for 2 nights. I think we're still on the boat for 2 more nights while we learn more about Israel and we go to the Golan Heights and we doing a bunch of stuff. And then we go to Jerusalem, and I think we're 2 nights in Jerusalem, 1 full day in Jerusalem while we see some, amazing ancient cultural sites there, and then we fly home. So we get home right before Thanksgiving, and I'm beyond excited. I cannot even stand it. So the next podcast will probably be a lot about the trip, but there will be knitting, but it'll be black sockhead hats and a baby sweater, which may be already mailed by the time I podcast. So my plan is to podcast the week after Thanksgiving. My sister is coming to my parents for Thanksgiving, so I will be visiting them on the weekend after Thanksgiving. And so the week after Thanksgiving is my current plan to do my next podcast. So that's in the works. So anyway, thank you so much for hanging out. And thank you for being so patient for this podcast to be coming out so late. And I hope while I'm gone, you have lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I will see you after Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving. It's already after Canadian Thanksgiving, but after U.S. Thanksgiving. By the time I talk again, we'll be in full-blown Christmas mode, I guess. Anyway, thank you so much. Goodbye.